What's up, Psychonauts? Today I'm going to tell you about my most recent LSD experience. The dose was 400 micrograms, which is the highest dose I've taken in around 4 years. So, since before I started this channel, and I spent most of this trip in my bedroom, laying in my bed. So, this trip report is mainly going to focus on my internal experiences and less on a chronological account of events, although I am going to try to keep most of it in order. So, as I'm coming up, I'm mostly just laying in my bed listening to music, and things get really hard to piece together very quickly. And I honestly don't remember what's happening before I could even really realize it. So I'm feeling the waves of LSD wash over me. The whole trip is coming on very quickly, very strong, but also very smooth. It feels, I get that pure, smooth love feeling. And overall, I feel very warm and I feel very good. Although I did experience a little bit of nausea for a little bit, and I was very glad that I did not have anything in my stomach. I start experiencing a lot of ego dissolution, and this is when the trip really starts. So the whole trip, I'm experiencing a familiar feeling of waking up. One theme on my mind recently that I think is very relevant to this trip is the idea of synchronicity. And I've actually been reading Jung's book, Synchronicity, an acausal connecting principle. And there was a quote that I wrote down from the book that I'm going to share with you real quick. These happenings are arranged as if they were the dream of a greater and more comprehensive consciousness, which is unknowable. So, this is the feeling that I'm getting at. I feel like I am waking up into a greater and more comprehensive consciousness, which is unknowable, that my whole life is just a part of as a dream. So I'm experiencing a lot of ego dissolution, and with that comes feelings of everything being interconnected, and also this feeling that everything is connected just too perfectly and it's all just pointing to this higher reality. So I start having this very beautiful experience of like pure awareness, and yeah, it just the whole time it just feels like remembering. This experience definitely felt like this revival of consciousness, and I just it's so easy to see on LSD that we're all one and love is everything, and that that's all that matters, and why does anything else matter, and why do we let all the suffering that exists exist. And it's a very inspiring feeling, and it made me feel very hopeful for the potential that these states of consciousness, particularly like egoless states of consciousness, how they could benefit just humanity as a whole. Yeah, I was seeing the interconnectivity of everything, and I just very much felt connected to this universe and to the rest of humanity. Yeah, I just felt that really love LSD feeling. I mean, LSD is just love to me. I always just feel the need to just share the love, spread the love, and this is what I was feeling. But yeah, I'm also just experiencing a lot all at the same time. Chronologically, I don't really know what's happening. Time is basically meaningless at this point. But things start to progress, and I start to get the feeling that reality is not what it seems. So, this is what's happening. I start feeling like I'm approaching the boundaries of reality itself. Um, at some point, I go into a period of silence, and this is where I really start to explore the experience. This is kind of my period of like pure exploration. This is a good time to describe the visuals because LSD I find remarkably non visual, at least compared to something like mushrooms or DMT. The visuals are very different. At some points in the experience, things just look very clear. There might be like a rainbow edge to everything, but things look very clear. Although sometimes, like if you look at a screen, anytime I look at a screen, it's very distorted. But things just look clear. It's weird. They almost look like hyper real in a way, but also dreamy in a way. I don't know how to fully describe it, but the visuals aren't as overwhelming as visuals in other experiences. And if I do focus on the visuals, and one thing I noted when I was reflecting on this trip is how you don't see with your eyes, you see with your mind. And so as I'm looking at these visuals, I'm kind of just like, what am I looking at? This is just what I'm exploring. I'm exploring these hallucinations and trying to see what I'm actually looking at. At some points, I see like grid overlays, and the sort of the space kind of turns into a geometry, but that's only if I'm like really focusing on it. For the most part, um the visuals don't get like that on LSD unless I really relax and kind of just go into them. As I'm doing this, I know at some point I started feeling like I was seeing into this mental dimension, and a lot of times I feel like I'm seeing into time, and this experience was no exception. I felt like I'm seeing into time, and time extends in mental space. It doesn't extend in physical space. It extends in orthogonal mental space of some sort. And through LSD, I can kind of my perception is expanded in such a way that I can see into this mental dimension. And that's what it feels like is happening. I'm kind of seeing into time, and for a while I'm just sort of observing my hallucinations, and I'm just playing with the experience. And yeah, I just started playing with my mind. Honestly, some of it is probably just like mental masturbation and isn't really like psychologically productive, but some of it is. And I really just like playing with my mind and kind of exploring the experience from a philosophical perspective. This is where I actually came up with my one and only acid thought that I was able to write down, which was, I don't believe in objective reality. I just like to pretend I do. And yeah, I think that sums up this part of the trip. I was really kind of just exploring a domain of reality that seemed to go beyond objective reality. And this is an idea that I've explored quite extensively. I've always, well, at least for many years, I've held the position that the edges of modern science and what that's pointing to, and what mystical states of consciousness and what those experiences are pointing to, that they're pointing to something, to some point of convergence, that there's a convergence between these things. And I think what it tells us is objective reality is not what it seems. um, so I will leave it at that. So overall, that is the main bulk of the trip. It was a very profound experience for me, and it felt very productive philosophically and mentally, and it felt very refreshing. And I'm very happy that I had this experience and experienced this sort of a psychedelic revival of consciousness. It really just made me feel inspired, and it made me feel like being turned on is the way. It's the way to go. I don't know. It just was an overall really good experience, full of love and philosophical exploration, and just it renewed my passion for all things psychedelic and all things consciousness exploration. And yeah, that basically sums up the trip, because after I left my bedroom, I was still feeling the effects for quite a long time. I watched a couple movies with my partner, and I know I was experiencing some severe time dilation. Everything just was taking forever. Like each moment is just an eternity. And it was really hard to process the movies at first, but eventually I do start coming down. I still could not sleep till 5 a.m. So I dosed at 11 a.m. thinking I'd be able to sleep that night, like get to sleep at midnight or something, but no, could not sleep till 5 a.m. So yeah, very strong experience, but exactly what I needed, and I'm happy to share it with you all. So I hope you all enjoyed that trip report. Let me know if you have any questions or if you have any similar experiences to share, and you all will see me in the next video.